Peter, we are here at the Weissenhaus Resort, and this fantastic tournament is taking place. One could say that you've played also a role in making this happen, yeah, because over the years you've been with Magnus, and this was Magnus's dream, sort of to have a Chess960 in classical format. Do you think that this is like a culmination of, because I've been asking him in many interviews.
Yeah. I think it's more his dream than mine, and that I sort of, 2 years ago I thought, well, Chess960, why should we do that? It's a strange game, but I think he's right, and I basically fell in love with the idea, and now we finally, get to test it. Well, not only at the high level we had like this before, but they get to play it as classical chess. I think this was Magnus' point, that we need to try it with much more thinking time, because, well, his argument is that Chess960 is obviously much more difficult than normal chess, because we cannot rely so much on intuition and so on and so forth. So the logical thing would that be that they have a lot of time to think about it, and I see it more as an interesting experiment. And well, so far it's too early to say, if it how it is in a way. But well, we get to see how difficult it is. It's also interesting that now we are speaking. How long time has been played today? Basically 1.5 hours, right? There are 12 moves into the game. It is very, very difficult, and it's fascinating to have the absolutely best current chess mind trying this out on very serious conditions, and we get an idea how difficult is this for the human brain. I think also we get to understand that, well, we are extremely good intuitively in understanding chess, but only, when the pieces are put the way we have brought up. When we sort of, get into slightly different things, when we start altering to patterns we don't know so well, our level drops considerably. And this is part of the experiment, but also it turns it into, I think, a pure sport. I mean, well, maybe it's not in my interest. I'm a second. This is how I provide for my family, and that's what I've been loving to do all my year, to analyze chess openings. But here it becomes more of general knowledge, and then to try and figure it out over the board. And it becomes a very, pure man versus man contest. I mean, we all talk about how computer analysis has made the game much more, problematic in a way. And this is just out of the window. Also, normally, well, a chess game can be an extremely fascinating thing, but it normally takes two to make it fascinating. If you want to, you can be destructive, even with the black pieces, because, well, openings are so mapped out. Here my feeling is, if just one player wants adventure, we're gonna get an adventure. And it's very fascinating. You can see also, today many players have to come back. It's too early to say if they will, but they will easily get a playable position. This is very, very difficult in classical chess. And no, I really like it. I think it's very interesting. And also, I mean, preparing for the event has been interesting in a way. I mean, because, well, there's not that much you can do. It basically feels like maybe going back 50, 60 years. You start, well, you don't take an informant these days, you take your database, but you play through some games, you check it with the engine, and you try to understand, maybe this is an interesting positional pattern or not. But we haven't been doing this for a long time, because everything is basically mapped out and so on and so forth. So it's, it's very interesting. I spoke with some of them to say, and we said, Aronian is better today because he's developed his queen. But in normal chess, you cannot develop your queen. Well, it's developed already, and well, you are learning new things. And this is, I find it very interesting. But I understand for some, it's also very, very strange, I guess.
I mean, knowing the kind of person you are and the level at which you have helped players, it would only be natural that you will start becoming an expert at this variant as well if it gets popular, right? Like if more tournaments are being held, how would you approach it, sort of the preparation aspect?
I mean, I think it's well, you have to actually start learning things that, as I said, well, developing the queen, is that a theme? You have to look through a lot of games. It really becomes, well, going back to basics, but it becomes much more broad research, while for a World Championship match, and well, that's what I've been doing. There we basically try to map out things mathematically, and it's a much more boring thing in a way. It's good because you're trying to, or it's efficient, you're trying to win the match, that's what it's all about. But here it really feels like going back so many years in time, and also it feels more like you have to gain knowledge. I mean, World Championship matches, it's a lot about getting knowledge, but then trying to remember it by heart. Here it's much more about understanding it, because, well, what are the odds that you can prepare one opening and then get to play it? Well, it's simple. It's like 0.1%, and that's not really gonna happen. And well, there's no point of trying to learn everything by heart. Also, you can see that, I mean, in normal chess theory, we know 20 moves. Here, well, we might know 3 or 5. They start thinking already. So it's more, it's not like trying to teach chess to a beginner, but there is a little bit of the same, that we are trying to learn, okay, as I said, developing the queen is a theme, and sometimes you will develop a rook. It's names we have not heard about before, and well, this is quite interesting in a way, but I don't know how much people have been preparing for this. I mean, also, well, several of the players are going to the candidates quite soon. I mean, it will be a strange priority for them to completely get their mind into this, but I hope it will be popular, because I think it's extremely interesting for players. Also, it's a little bit more relaxing for players. I mean, you know, normally we will talk about openings, so there will be a lot of stress. Here, they seem to enjoy themselves, and then they can focus all their energy on playing. But I think to make it popular, we need to have, let's say, regular world championships. It would be great to have a rating list. You know, there has to be prestige involved for players to take it serious. And of course, well, we need sponsorships as well. I mean, well, this is a very luxurious that we can have someone who's willing to pay for all this. But it's the first time we see, you know, a very high level sort of private sponsored event like this, as far as I know. So I hope it will be popular, but you need the players to take it very seriously for it to make sense. And here my impression is that they take it quite seriously in a way. But to take it seriously again, there has to be prestige involved and so on and so forth.
But Peter, do you think that we have reached a stage where classical chess can no longer be pursued creatively or in this respect? Because Magnus not only made this stance, he also stood by it. He did not play the World Championship.
Yeah.
He didn't play Tata Steel this year. I think he prioritized preparation for this event over it. So he's getting very serious into this.
There is some truth in that, I think, but also, I mean, it's also a bit of a generational thing, right? You know, when I worked with Vishy, we also thought, okay, we are basically at the end of the evolution. But then came these young players like Magnus. They would just keep playing in endings. They would play suboptimal openings, and they will be successful with that. Maybe now you can argue Magnus is becoming this stage, and you will see younger players like, you know, well, all the young Indian players, or up to Satorov, not to mention someone specifically, but they will play in a different style and still manage to create aggressive chess. But of course, if you look at any kind of evolution, in theory there is an end stage at some point. And I think, well, by logic we're coming closer to that. And I think World Championship matches, it's getting more and more difficult to come up with new ideas. What we saw last time was this complete extreme, what Ding was doing. He basically prepared 7, not crazy ideas, but ideas that could very much be used only once. And well, maybe that's where we are now.
Isn't this what modern chess is all about? Every player comes with like a bag full of one game ideas?
I think it has been like that for a while, but now, you know, the pressure to make these ideas, they even have to be almost crazier and crazier. I think, well, this idea that you cannot really hit with quality, you had to hit with surprise. This has been the case for quite a while, but it's even getting a little bit more desperate at the moment. And well, for me it's difficult, and for me it's great that now we can focus on Chess960 and such. But well, what Ding did was something that we never dared doing, and maybe, you know, in the candidates some of the young players will find some even more extreme ways to do it. And I think it is interesting, but of course you can also argue, well, we have this beautiful solution called Chess960. Why do we have to go to this way, in a way? And also, I mean, whenever a new idea is played in real chess, then this is getting solved. And somehow, well, we're getting closer to the, you know, bottom of the well of ideas and things like this. I don't know. I mean, it would be interesting to have a World Championship match like this, right? You know, you only have to prepare generally. You can come relaxed for the match and such. But to have that, well, then it has to be a tremendous amount of prestige. Right now, you know, we're all enjoying a beautiful spa thing here. We try to take it seriously, but no one has prepared for half a year, right? And no one has a team of 6 seconds who have studied things into detail like we did before. So this comes with prestige and with money and such. But, I mean, well, you can also say this is the backup plan. If chess dries out, well, we know that this works and this is very interesting. But, well, I'm also, you know, I'm a freak. So for me it's interesting. I have studied chess my whole life, but is it interesting for the media? I mean, do you have as many spectators? I have no clue.
For me, it's very, very exciting to see the players 10 minutes before the game trying to figure out what the first move would be.
Yeah.
You know, generally similar moves come to their mind. E4, D4, sort of sometimes when the bishop is in the corner to put B4, G4.
But they sound a bit like beginners, right? Yeah.
Exactly. They can't go beyond 3 moves or 4 moves. So it is very exciting. But the point which you made, which was also very interesting, is that when the new generation comes, like I asked Nodirbek and Vincent, both of them, whether they prefer this over classical chess. And they both had to say that there is still a lot of chess left in classical chess. So do you think like what Magnus is as a player, and you know he's still at the top of the chess world, that he cannot reinvent himself the way in which he managed to sort of beat Vishy, who was actually excellent at theory and so on, and he took him into these deep end games and so on?
I think, I mean, if you look at Magnus's World Championship career, he did reinvent himself. I mean, with Vishy, he would shy away from theory. With, I mean, against Nepomniachtchi, he did hit him with some kind of theory and played a lot of surprises and such. So I think that he for sure adapted. Also, if you look at Magnus' career, he went from not playing a lot of theory to, for instance, in 2019, suddenly he started hitting hard with the theory. And I think basically, I mean, I think we always understood that Magnus's, you know, force is non-theoretical positions. But if it becomes too obvious, you cannot play theoretical positions. Everybody will start. I mean, that's what Vishy was doing in the 2014 match, for instance. He was basically pushing so hard with theory that, I mean, when we sort of tried to avoid theory, he would get too big an edge there. So it was important for us to balance it in a way. I mean, it's like, well, they say that in tennis, if your forehand is your best weapon, you have to train your backhand to the extent they can just not play it like that. And that, I think, to say Magnus haven't evolved like this is too strong. I think now he's perhaps more in an experimental phase. I mean, you can see he plays online, he plays all kind of strange openings and so on, and quite successfully. But I think, well, he seemed to have made the point that he doesn't want to play the World Championship currently. And that's, of course, the benchmark that, well, you will measure him with in a way. I mean, that he's not evolving, I think, would be strange to say. I think also, I mean, for him...
No, I mean, in just classical form.
Yeah, I understand.
Over the years. And right now, is there something that could continue? Because in a way, this seems like a moment where there is a classical chess entire ecosystem built up, and here there is a new one that is being created in a way.
I think also, well, I see it more as we do one event at a time. I mean, well, basically you can, I mean, he's won the World Championship 5 times. That is enough for a lifetime. Maybe some will think he should get 6 instead, but I think this is a new challenge. He tries that, I mean, for instance, 2 years in a row, winning both World and Rapid Blitz was huge targets. I think especially the first time, because we knew that he was going to give up his World Classical title. We thought, okay, this is actually the last time he can have all 3 titles. And that was, we thought he was not the favorite to do it, but he managed to do it anyway. So, I mean, I think his idea is that to show how great a chess player he is. Classical chess is not the best because it's so much about openings, and there is perhaps, it's more difficult to outplay opponents, while in Rapid and Blitz it's more possible to put pressure successfully, and in Chess960 it's less possible to block him with preparation. But well, at the moment it's not going that well because he's not playing well enough, but I think he really enjoyed the challenge, and that's also, I mean, when people think that he's just quitting the career. I think more he's looking for very interesting challenges, and I mean he's been extremely excited about playing this event. So I mean it might sound strange for you, but no, I'm generally nervous. I would really like him to win, so I'll actually allow myself to check. Ah, he's +2. That's good, but there will be a playoff later and such. But I mean, oh, you see, move 16, you're +2.
No,
it would not happen normally.
It's like. From all the games that have been gathered here, it's clear that this format is very interesting. And clearly everyone's enjoying it. But the question is, will top players take to it? And that is another thing. Like, you know, as you said, more tournaments have to happen.
Well, I think top players are generally, you know, logical, rational human beings, right? If there is money involved, if there's prestige involved, they will do it. I mean, well, go back 7 years, you will make fun of people playing online events. Right. Now everybody is doing it because there's a bunch of money, it seems as very prestigious and so on and so forth, right? You also see top players being streamers. I mean, normally you would say, maybe focus on your career, but well, they were wrong. I mean, well, you build a platform yourself, so you know the business.
A couple of years down the line, we would be discussing details of Chess960 and so on. It's quite possible.
I hope so. I mean, but the popularity is not there yet, and also I think part of the problem is maybe that it's too difficult. I mean, well, you can see when you see the, you know, some 207, 208 players standing debating the position, and we can see with the Indian, they have no clue what they're talking about. Well, how should amateurs be able to enjoy this in a way, right? I mean, that amateurs is capable of enjoying elite chess players is due to Indians and people like yourself explaining and so on and so forth, but making it much more difficult is also making it much more difficult for the spectators, right? But I hope it will manage, but I mean, I'm an old guy. I think the young generation has to figure out what's interesting for them, and if they can keep classical chess rolling for 10, 20 years, that's great. I mean, the last World Championship match turned out as a thriller. We will see how the next one is in a way. Also, I mean, the next candidates will be interesting in that way. I mean, will they be able to break free of this drawing spell? I think so with the field we are seeing. And
yeah, it's a very mixed field, no? This time, like the youngsters, and there are few established players. Like Nijat Abbasov is not even 2700. Prag and you have Gukesh. Vidit came out of the blue. And then you have these top players who are Hikaru, Fabi, Nepo,
of course,
and Ali Reza. So it's a very mixed sort of a candidates. Do you have a kind of, not a favorite, but someone who you would give slightly more chances?
I have Caruana as the favorite actually, and I mean, he's my clear favorite to the extent that I probably would almost rather, you know, if you have to make a bet, I would almost like I have Caruana, you can choose two names. Maybe not, but I'm just saying that I think if it's 1 against 1, I will take Caruana easily against everyone else. But it could still mean he only has 30% chances. I don't know. But somehow it strikes me as recently that he has manifested himself as world number 2. But I probably have always seen him as a world number 2, and at some point I thought maybe I'm just stuck mentally in 2018, because that was when, you know, he was Magnus' big competitor, he was clearly number 2 in the world, and I haven't updated that. Maybe now he's looped back and he seemed to be there again. But
2023 was like a brilliant year for him.
Exactly, and well, it's difficult to get used to that, for instance, Nakamura is so strong as it might be. He didn't lose a game last year. We're just used to seeing him as someone who's strong and rapid and blitz, who, you know, has an online career, but lacks some kind of chess skills. But, I mean, he used to be weak in the opening, but everybody's getting stronger just because it's getting easier and so on. And again, it could easily be that I'm just completely stuck in my patterns from 5 years ago, when it was clear that Nakamura was not number 2 in the world. He could actually be now. And the same perhaps with the younger players. I mean, I'm used to Ali Reza being quite strong, but Gukesh and Prag, for instance, seems too young to me. But it could be, again, that I'm thinking of how strong they were 1.5 years ago, while today they could be much stronger, and I haven't fully grasped in a way. So, I mean, well, you will see that sometimes, right? That after the event we thought, okay, actually this guy was extremely strong. I mean, remember, I think Kramnik played some chess Olympiad. He got on the, probably was Russian team at the time, not Soviet. And well, afterwards it was clear to everybody, okay, this guy was extremely strong. We hadn't grasped it yet. I think it's too soon for Prague and Gukesh to win a candidates event. And there's nothing wrong with that. They are really young. But I don't feel I have a full grasp of that. I have a full grasp of how strong Caruana is when he's at his best. And he's also normally brilliantly prepared and so on and so forth. But of course, we also know that Caruana has some kind of weakness within him, but suddenly he will have a bad window, a bad spell, and then who knows? And also, I mean, I haven't even mentioned Nepomniachtchi. He's won 2 in a row. It almost feels like disrespectful not mentioning him. I mean, maybe again, I'm too influenced that 5 years ago, he was seen as a, well, you saw Magnus as best, and you saw Caruana and some others as the contenders, and he was the level below that. And no, the more we talk, I get convinced that I'm living in 2018, right? That I haven't sort of, it's strange. He has won 2.
Because he's evolved like considerably as a player, right?
Yes, but he's not that used to winning events in a way, right? And this is feels a little bit strange, maybe. But he's won 2 candidates, and he has won, 2 candidates. Not at all depending on luck, but just based, on strength. Sometimes you will, you get a lucky bounce or whatever. He just seems to be the best player 2 times in a row, right? So it's very interesting.
Do you think Firouzja has kind of now, because Magnus was talking about him 2 years ago.
I remember.
And that put a lot of pressure on him perhaps, and he couldn't perform in candidates. I mean, it could be other reasons, but do you think now he has reached that stage that he could win the candidate?
Probably not, but it's been a while since we have seen him, with this extremely powerful performance in a way. But to be fair, also he has played not that much, and I can use the same argument as I did with Gukesh and Prague. It strikes me as too early, but there is a certain probability that he has just developed with us out showing it yet, and this could come there. And I assume the first candidates tournament is always difficult. I mean, remember Magnus, he barely managed to qualify for Vishy. I mean, to call it lucky was a bit much. Also, there was no one else who deserved it particularly more than Magnus. But, it's not...
It was a thriller.
It was a thriller, and it was a little bit random. I mean, just, as I said, the ball jumps slightly differently. It would have not have been Magnus to change chess history and so on and so forth. And, I mean, for Firouzja, it must be an advantage that he has played a candidate and failed before. Of course, you can argue it hurts your nervous system, but I think more he knows what to expect, and that could be difficult for Gukesh and Prague in the sense that all eyes are on them, and they prepare a bunch, but suddenly you cannot really simulate this kind of experience. But of course, people who has a winning character will just, no, it was not that different. I think it was Kramnik who said that everybody told me Linares is going to be different. But no, I went to Linares, it wasn't different. So but that's how champions are born in a way, right? But my money is on the older generation, should I bet? And I guess we're still counting Firouzja in the young generation. I mean, he's still very young, right? But
and has Vidit's sort of rise recently surprised you, or how is it?
I mean, to some extent, I would say. No, maybe also, again, I'm too influenced by the past, but I remember him, for instance, being the second of Giri, which could just have been a clever way of getting experience and developing himself. But maybe I'm used to that. When you are second, well, it goes in the name, that you have decided that you have a career where you're not the focal point yourself in a way. And I have never seen him as the complete elite group, but the results are impressive. And you could argue he was a little bit lucky in Grand Swiss losing the first game and then coming back. You can also argue that he shows tremendous character in a way. And well, I generally believe in the rating system. He's not the favorite in the candidates. I hope I'm not insulting him by saying that. I think that would also be his own evaluation in a way. But no, he's tough. And again, I think in terms of maximum level, no one can compete with Caruana. I mean, Caruana could make +6, but he will not do that all the time. He's probably, you know, less likely that he will do +6 or +4 than that he will not do it. And then it becomes much more open in a way. But, I mean, and again, Vidit perhaps don't have these big victories except for Grand Swiss, but I don't know if he had that many chances, to be honest, in a way, right? And well, it must be amazing to be part of the Indian chess boom, but of course, there is so many to choose from that it will be more difficult to get invitations to a certain extent, right? So, he's not among the favorites. That's clear. Also by rating, maybe he's
around 27-45.
Yeah, and in the tournament, does that put him at 7th spot, maybe? Or
no, I think all Prag, Gukesh, and Vidit are same. Almost.
That's
rating.
true. Yeah.
So,
We have basically this Indian cluster of within 10 points. There are so many. Yeah. I understand. But
do you think that whoever wins this candidate becomes the favorite to win the world title because Ding is not in best shape?
Whoever is too strong. But I mean, of the favorites, I would say yes, they would be the favorites against Ding as well. But I mean, who knows which Ding shows up in a way. And Ding has I mean, unlike them, they have to care of a lot of things. Ding is actually completely aware that he only has to perform in 1.5 years like this. It could be a different Ding, but of course, I mean, well, Ding is a very mild character that perhaps is very happy to have become the world champion, but doesn't necessarily think of that he has to win it 5 times or something like this. I don't know him well enough there, but again, well, the world championship, he was not the favorite either. I think when the first time he was the favorite in the match was basically when he had won it, right? So, I mean, this was to sort of start talking about Ding not having a sporting character, then you haven't seen the match. It was, I mean, basically an incredible performance from a sporting perspective. Also, I think, well, for instance, when I was with Vishy and with Magnus, my conclusion was always that, well, when you look back, the best player won. The one who played best and such would win. This time, I think Nepomniachtchi played better than Ding in the match, but Ding's sporting qualities of hanging in there, fighting back, was really impressive. And well, he's probably capable of doing that again. I think also he's gotten a lot of experience and such. But it's clear he seems to be some kind of balancing problem. Maybe he's fed up with chess and so on and so forth. But I assume the match is like 15 months from now. Yeah. That could easily change. It's hard for me to say.
Also, if you are back in 2018 in your head, then at that point Ding was like one of the biggest sort of competitors for Magnus, right?
Yeah.
I remember when he came to India for this Tata Steel, and he beat Magnus in both these Blitz games. Everyone was saying like Ding should get a match with Magnus at some point. It'll be fun, and you know.
No, but I think at some point there was this London Chess Classic shortly before the pandemic, and it was like the final with Magnus, Ding, MVL, and I forgot who the last one was. And well, Magnus even lost in the semifinals to MVL, but Ding just won both his matches, and he seemed to play so incredibly well. I mean, it's also in the World Championship match, Ding basically changed himself as a player. Well, that worked. It was a bit. I mean, we all expected he will play his Catalans, and no, he didn't play any of his favorite openings. He did play some marshals, but he was reinventing himself as a player. I mean, it's like he can almost go back to his strength and be a surprise at the same time. We don't know what to expect for Ding next and such. So, no, it's a good point that at some point, again, we have generally seen Caruana as number 2, but at some point it was Ding. You're right that he had this spell at some point where you thought, okay, his potential is enormous. And I think also, perhaps before the Nepomniachtchi match, most thought that Ding could in principle be the strongest player, but that Nepom would be more stable, be better prepared, had the better team, so on and so forth. It was to some extent quite reversed, right? That Ding seemed to be somewhat weaker in terms of playing, but then on the contrary, he had incredible mental resistance in a way. But it's hard to say, but also it's far from now, and who's I mean. Again, it could also be that the candidate suddenly produces a clear winner who's extremely impressive, and we will see. But Right now, I mean, Ding just had Wijk. He has this event where he has a horrible score and such. It would be weird to pick him as the favorite, right?
True.
Yeah. So.
And for you personally, Peter, like you've been at the top of world chess, helping players become world champions for years now. How do you see your career now going forward?
I see. Well, I just turned 50 since last time we talked. So I mean, well, I have the most luxurious job in the chess world, in my opinion. I'm working for Magnus, and I mean, no, I mean, if Magnus would play another match, I would say, sure, let's prepare for that. If you ask me, that would be great. But of course, I've also done it a lot of times, and you know, getting to analyze Chess960, less stress, more creativity, it's a gift. I'm not sure that that's what I do best, but it's extremely exciting and such.
You enjoy it?
Yeah. I mean, it's, well, I mean, no, suddenly I think we start doing actual research. Normally we would just, you know, okay, this is a forced draw, like let's try to figure it out. Now you're trying to understand things again and such. And this is, it's a lot of fun. I mean, that I could do for the rest of my life. But, well, maybe Magnus doesn't. I mean, of course, what you're afraid of as a second here is, well, I haven't met Magnus today, for instance. I mean, maybe at some point he figures out there's actually no need that I have to be here. And that, of course, will be a pity for me. So.
Or there are like 960 databases created.
Yeah.
And then before the game, if there's 10 minutes, you go over like the database and.
Well, that we were doing in Reykjavik, but no, not there. We would just talk about the position. But I actually had this idea. I mean, is there people in the world who would be able to remember the theory of 960?
You kind of clump the positions together, like certain positions.
That you can do, but maybe also you can, I mean, someone with a more specific memory could just remember them all. I mean, of course not details, but you could, okay, this is E4 and D4. But no, of course you try to, I mean, well, for instance, where the king is positioned matters a lot. And if the king is in B1, you know there's a rook on A1. And of course you can try to, well, these kind of things we try to do, but...
Also, when the rooks are on D1 and F1, it kind of gives a little more stability to the position because only the king jumps for the castle.
I mean, and
these are few things which I kind of looked at and started understanding in these 3 days. So I believe that players would kind of gain knowledge very quickly.
Of course we do that, but I mean, for instance, well, I tried even to do some statistics, but normal the result would be that, half of the time you do like this, half of the time you do like it doesn't work. Okay, what are you going to do with that statistic? So basically, you know, maybe not. I mean, and but that's the interesting part in a way, right? I mean, well, I think for instance this theme we saw today here with E5, E4, E5, G3, I had seen before in some games, and it's logical. You attack with F4. You can see that some of the other players would play F4, G3 to open for both bishops immediately. But Magnus played E4 first, which blocked the bishop, but it takes space, and there's a lot of interesting things. But, I mean, well, it's a luxury because Magnus doesn't want to be the world champion. For the rest, they would like to be, so they cannot afford to care so much about this. But we will see. I mean, well, we prepared for Rapid and Blitz and things like that. And I think like the rest of the chess world, I specifically hope that he will hang in there for a long time in a way.
Yeah, but we also hope that he
and
plays all formats. That would be cool.
And also, well, I do have this feeling, of course, of having a lot of experience for matches, but also you can see that you start, I shouldn't try to ruin my future prospects, but you start lagging a bit behind. For instance, what Ding was doing was a concept that I might have thought about, but thought it's too risky to do in a way. But the point is, can also be that it was not necessary. I mean, for instance, when Vishy were playing, we could still find new ideas which had considerable quality. It was not necessary to do like this. With Magnus, well, maybe he was so much better player that why should we try to decide the game based on dubious opening prep? But for Ding, maybe he thought, this is actually how I have to do it. And I mean, well, that I think we will see some of the young players bluffing or semi-bluffing a lot, and they seem to have the courage to do it. And that's extremely fascinating to follow in a way. And if anything, perhaps you could almost argue that the young generation is, I mean, well, let's say Abdusattorov, Prague, Gukesh, Firusha. I mean, there is none from the solid school there. There should almost be room for some kind of young player
I mean,
who has
Vincent
more.
and Prag maybe more solid, right?
Yeah, maybe Vincent has. Yeah, he's probably very solid. He's still very ambitious, but perhaps more solid. You're right. Prag. Yeah, he's not as aggressive as Gugas, but he's still pretty aggressive, is my impression, in a way. And well, you could almost argue, if you look at it sort of evolution, that there should be room for someone who is actually extremely solid in a way. But maybe he will appear. Maybe that will be the edge of the older players in a way. But I mean, no, extremely curious. Simply, I mean, I will follow the candidates as a fan and see. Okay, you know. If we have been felt stuck in a lot of openings, how will they manage to do it in a way? But of course, I mean, I think they have an advantage of that everybody in the tournament are very combative, and that of course makes it easier. Also, I think candidates is the only tournament, except the World Championship match of course, where people care tremendously about winning. I mean, other events, you know, okay, I was shared second, I lost a tiebreak, I won 10 ELO points, great event. Here, okay, I mean, the first prize is so big that they will start risking. I think you remember the candidates in Berlin, you saw Aronian completely blowing up because at -1 or -2, he thought, well, I will give it a last chance to get back. It didn't work at all, but it was the right strategy to keep gambling in a way. And that only happens when they really, really want to do well and they're not caring one bit about rating points. And that, of course, the candidates is perfect. And these things you cannot really simulate. I mean, let's say you have a bad start in Wijk. Okay, you will make some draws, you will not care too much. Candidates is a bit different there. I think also, I don't know if the young players really dreams of having to win now, but for, you know, Caruana have some years left, but still maybe he could feel now is really the moment. Yes. Magnus is not there, I'm the highest rated players, Ding seems vulnerable, I'm not going to get a better chance than that and such. So it's going to be incredibly interesting, I would say.
Lastly, Peter, I want to ask you, we saw you here with your family, Victoria was here, Maris, your son was here.
Yes.
Is he picking up chess? Because he sat there very interestedly looking at the positions and so on.
Actually, well, I have two sons, one at 9 and then one at 6. The one at 6 is doing much more chess.
I mean, he's actually...
Here. No, he wasn't here. No, he's busy with his kindergarten. Well, for Marius, well, he got a short holiday. So he's doing a lot of chess with his granddad, who's a chess teacher and was the one teaching Victoria in the beginning. But Marius is strangely, from my perspective, a lot into dancing and such. Has nothing to do with my genes, but he likes that. And I think, well, I mean, it's of course a little bit strange for the parents when they are two grandmasters, but well, he should do what he wants. And also, I don't know of any examples of someone who has, well, even one parent who's a grandmaster, rather say two, who has kids who actually become chess players. I don't think there's any examples of that. And maybe, you know, if you're a strong football player, you will start retiring at the time when your kid starts getting interested, and like this you can stay in the game. But in chess, you know, chess is my full work life. It was also my kid's life. I mean, I don't know, but no, they more came here as a holiday. My wife has a lot of work. For Marius, it was a chance to visit Germany and such, and it perhaps also gives away that on the normal tournaments, I would not dare bring them because, you know, there has preparation to do all the time. While here, I think they realized that, okay, I'm not going to be that useful, so I was allowed to bring my family. So that was great.
Also, if it was a normal event, I couldn't have spoken to you right now. I had to wait till the end of the event because you would be very busy. So
sometimes, but I mean, depends. Actually, during the game, well, this is almost different now. That during a normal tournament, during the game is the most relaxing in terms of free time because he's playing. While now, well, I will check the games and such, but there's not so much to talk about. It's actually very, very strange, and maybe Chess960 is not so good for coaches. But well, we will solve that. I will probably be too old at that point anyway.
At some point, if it gets competitive, I'm sure there will be a role.
Of course, and there will be. I mean, there will be some kind of preparation as such. I mean, also, I mean, I think everybody has been preparing to a basic level in terms of we have, you know, check games with Indians and something like this. But I mean, if it was if suddenly by magic you said, okay, next World Championship match is 960, so is the candidate. Of course, we will start researching like crazy. It will be much more, and it will be very interesting. I'm not suggesting it's a good idea. We have something that's we shouldn't change, but of course you could put in much more resources, and we'll get much more knowledge and such. But well, right now it's an interesting hobby in that sense, and we try to explore a little bit, but okay, it's well, it's still on the hobby level, I would say.
Well, thank you, Peter, for
You're
your
welcome.
time. Always talking to you.
Yeah, you're always
great
welcome.
insights.
It's good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks a lot.